Hello, I am Dushyant Kanungo and I am going to talk to you about information architecture deliverables, making a strategy and selling your information architecture. Now, there are two different things that are very important in the process of information architecture. So, there we go. So, first of all, what is information architecture? Now, this term may not be defined that clearly, and you can't go with just one definition. The term information architecture was first defined by Richard Saul Verman in 1976. Verman is the author of 80 different textbooks. One of them is Information Anxiety, often referred in our coursework and many a times being asked to read. And this term, defined by Information Architecture Institute, is as the structural design of shared information environments, where multiple environments share information together to come up with the final one big architecture for the bigger picture or the bigger website or bigger intranet. The art and science of organizing and labeling websites, internet, online communities and software to support usability and findability. It is about the multiple sets of data, how we perceive the information which is stored in the databases. Make it, organize it in a way that it can be useful for more than one purpose, or for the user's perspective, that how it can be organized and how we are going to present it. It's an emerging community of practice focused on bringing principles of design and architecture to digital landscape. Now, the IA Institute, which is an international community of about 2,000 information architects, which hold on to this practice and they are promoting it. So, there you have it. So why does it matter? Because the cost of finding the information. If one company has an intranet where one employee has to perform one search and it takes 2 minutes, and the search, they have to perform the search 3 times an hour, the amount just goes multiple, 6 minutes an hour. For a day, for 8 hours, it's about 40 minutes they're just spending finding one piece of information which comes in their routine task. Now think about an organization where about 200 employees and they're all doing the same task. Finally, the cost runs massive and you can't hold it at any level. The cost of not finding the information, just like Alex was explaining his website, the extreme sports one. What if the one product or one brand the user is looking for and so passionate it's about, if they can't find it, you can't figure out, there is no way to figure out that whether the person, the visitor, ever found the information that they were looking for. Cost of construction, if you put it into development, you spend thousands of pounds, and finally it is not of the use. So there has to be some way, some strategy, and points should be considered before going into information architecture. Maintenance, again, if you want scalability, want to add more features, more functionality, more information, more data, there has to be some scope in the future that if more information comes in, where will it go? Cost of training. Internal intranets, there has to be people who will be working on it, so you have to train them. The man hours involved in training, or in the HCI purposes, the memorability of the whole application should be presented. And the value of brand. You don't like a website, you don't like a website, you can't do anything about it. So, Jakob Nielsen, in the introduction of the book by Peter Morville and the other girl, he said the low intranet usability due to poor information architecture costs the world economy $100 billion per year, just in loss of employee productivity. Now, this is a big number and definitely needs to be addressed. So, what is the problem? If we are losing money, the gurus of internet and information, they are saying that we need to focus on information architecture, but we can't do anything about it. The problems. It is still an emerging domain. Though in 1999, there are several focus groups and people were aware that, okay, let's go with it and just redesign the whole intranet and internet and all the websites. The .com went bust. .com bust, fire people, don't use the services. And IA seems one of the domains that people were still learning and knowing about it, so they cut it down. So the growth in the community just slowed down, and that is the one big reason that we still have all the crappy websites around us. Second was ignorance at executive level. Not many people know about it. I mean, whenever there is a website needs to be, if somebody asks you to create a website, they'll just tell you that, okay, give me a Photoshop layout or something to see that how my website is going to look. Without knowing or without even realizing that what is the best practice, what are the standard industry methodologies that can be performed before coming up to that point. There are gray areas in the domain. Some people consider it as graphic design, which it is not. Some people say interaction design, the navigation where the links are, because that is the user journey bit. But it is a part of the graphic design, interaction design, and usability, but it is not. There are certain gray areas. There is no clearly defined boundary that where information architecture is ending and graphic design is beginning, or navigation designing is coming into focus. And global recession, cost cutting. Again, once the dot-com bust was over and people were standing on their feet and world was looking happier place, the world just hit by the worst recession since 1930 something. So that is the prime reason that we have to make the case, prepare the strategy, plus we have to sell the information architecture to the clients. So why it is so hard to sell it? Because of the few reasons, that it is intangible. You cannot tell that what exactly are going to be the outputs. You can't say that, okay, if you fill petrol in your car, it will run a certain number of miles, but that is one short solution that you can provide. But complete IA can never be quantified in terms of that you do this, you will save this. There are always going to be gray areas, and discussion areas. People's point of view are always different. What to use? Broad navigation, where many links just come up front and have the 2 and 3 sub-level navigations, or use 5 categories which have like multiple pages listed down to them. So a proper categorization can be verified. The ROI case, which is return of investment, that you are losing 450 million right now, invest 150, and you will save about 300 or 200% in ROI in say 5 years time. But if it is a large scale intranet, if we are talking about a company over 200 people, 300 people, 3,000 people using it, then the case is important. But in a company of 10 people, they'll say, okay, we'll manage 10 minutes time a day, that's not a problem. And information seeking behavior, that if the people are searching by the wrong term, you can't help it. If you have your information with one particular keyword set, metadata specified, if people are not looking by that, you got to rethink about your web analytics strategy and come back to it. Second was, IA components can't ever be quantified. How much advanced search does a library website need? You can go on and develop multiple level of searching categories, and each time you add a component, the development time increases, the design time increases, the testing time increases, and the documentation will also go on. So how detailed the component can be. So you cannot just say that, okay, this is the best thing or best solution that we can come up with. And people not being able to find the information, this is again the cost of not finding the information. You cannot just go on and predict this or say that, okay, people now started finding the information. Quantified IA benefits can't be validated. People will say something happened, but it's never going to be the case, because some people, or most of the people everyone is individual and they have their own opinion. They have their own perspective, their own prejudice. Politics also runs rampant in the companies, when some people will say something and other people will do anything to go against that first statement. Selling the information architecture. You are an architect, when to sell the information architect to a company. First thing that you do, show the problem and how you can help fix it. Now, making it clear to the executives that why the whole the problem is coming from where the problem is coming from, and what they should do to solve the problem. Cutting to the chase without just hanging here and there and just talking them easy and then telling them something with a huge curve, or just tell them that this is the problem, there is a solution, and research the background information, prepare a list of compelling reasons. You have your reasons, you can sell it. Benefit is the bottom line. Just I mentioned the ROI case, but there are people who do not think in money all the time. There are some managers. For them, organization is more important. Organization of information is more important than just the money, because they are not the ones responsible for companies' revenues, but they are more inclined towards how better the information can be presented and how better the information will be used in coming sense of when they scale their product, their company, and they just want people to improve their performance and optimize the work level, and not promising the silver bullet, because in the end, as we just saw in the previous slide, it can never be quantified. most of it, final results can never go down. So if you promising a silver bullet, writing a contract saying something will happen, it is not going to happen, you will get sued back and then legal hassles. Playing the politics is the key, which is not a bad politics in a way, but you have to know the culture, the organization, how the people think, how the decisions are taken, whether it is an organization where somebody just stands up and says, we are going to do this and everyone does that, or it's an organization where most people have something to say and the decision was taken communally. Talking to the right people, if you just go on and speak with the random people at the lunch bar and say, okay, your information system's crap, and they will say, yeah, but you can't do anything about it. You have to speak with the actual people, the stakeholders, the decision-making authority to prove your point and get it done. And the listening bit, the problems, that's where you have to, talking to the right people means when you are pointing out the problems, when it comes to listening, not just the stakeholders, but you have to listen to the end channel, thinking about the local market, the local thing, the local users, or whom actually are using it. Listening to the problem is obviously going to help. Now, paying attention to style is again the two people thing that I just explained about people who care about the money, whom you are going to pitch the ROI case, and people who think about how cool it can look after it is organized in a certain way. Some people are neat freak, and that is the one that you need to think about. So, think about it. Use the lingo which they use rather than using in technical lingo that you understand, your fellow IA people will understand or web people will understand. Talk in terms of their business. So that is one key thing to remember. Well, Samantha Stammer published this paper in 2006 in the Society of Information Science and Technology's journal called Getting Executives to Say Yes. Now, another point of view comes from Peter Morville and Louise Rosenfield in the book. It is this extension of what I just presented, which is using sensitivity bootcamp sessions, site evaluation, strategy sessions. Now, these sessions, you have to be in the company, in the organization with them before you say, okay, we can sell it. Or before presenting the case to the company, you have to do the preparation. Now, here, this goes with all the user research bit, which Tom Lisbeth explained a while ago, which relates to doing focus groups, individual interviews, talking to people. But then again, competitive and competitive analysis, because their facts and figures, the dry facts and figures, or a story arc can be presented. So you, information which can be collected from here can finally be presented and said, okay, here are the proofs, here are the reasons, that's why we want you to buy it. Being aggressive is the best bit that you can do, honestly. The tool salespeople are the ones who say, okay, buy our product, it will solve every problem that you ever have in your IA structure. And think about what kind of features they are coming up with, what are the key solutions that they're providing, what is the USP of their product that they are selling off. Think about it and think, what if we can pull those things, integrate it in the custom structure that we are creating or we are selling, and how we can integrate those inside it and just go on with that. Planning, thinking about people. Education, when we say is half battle, one is, as I said, the managers, not all of them are educated about information architecture. You've got to make them understand why IA is important for their company, how it is going to help. And if they know it, then you just have to say why you are the ones who are going to do IA. And getting off the high horse is throwing out any prejudice you have, throwing out any company-related experience you have, because it's a new domain, a new company, and you have to think local about their problems. Nothing what you think of as a problem may not apply in the current scenario. Sold. The deliverables for sales. First is a contracting outlining key areas of research. That what are the problems that we might like to solve here. Phase-wise high-level breakup plan, that what will happen and how tentatively we are going to work around here. Now, phases: research, strategy, design, implementation, and administration. Though they look like one step after another, but generally when you talk about IA strategy or in the design phase, they are rotating once. So you do research, you do strategy, you go for design, but sometimes when you come to design phase, you realize, okay, there is something that we came up in the strategy phase, but it is not getting implemented properly. So there was something wrong with the way that we are looking at it, or in the testing or prototyping phase, we might come up with something. So you have to go back to research to rethink what went wrong, and then coming to the strategy and moving ahead. Now research. Well, I have to explain to you, talk to you about strategy. But research is an important bit because it's a two-way thing, that first you shoot and then aim, or you first aim and then shoot. So research is the aiming, and doing strategy is shooting. So you have to collect the data. Now, the research framework works between context, content, and users, and IA, the whole strategy lies in the middle. You have to know the context. What are the business goals? What exactly the company wants to achieve in their life? In their life means in the longer run. Where is the funding coming from? What is the politics in the company? Culture, technology, and what kind of human resources are available on your disposal, that if you point out a problem, or if you want to know some information gathering from the company, how are you going to get it? Content, what is the amount of documents? What is the data which is available? What are the objects that you need to arrange, organize, or structure in your information architecture? And what is the existing structure is, and how it is implemented, and how it is coming, people are using it. And obviously the users, audience, task, needs, information seeking behavior, experience, and capabilities. Now, information seeking behavior is a really interesting point, because sometimes the users, they just want to get the information out. It doesn't matter how crappy their IA is. Just like our blackboard. We hate it, but we use it because there is no alternate way available, and university knows that every student will go on blackboard whether they love it or hate it, it doesn't matter. So the information seeking behavior of students just spikes, and that we have to use it. But whereas if it's a product-based website, no one will go there, no one will visit it again. So there is a big users information seeking behavior involved when comparing to different organizations. So what is IA strategy? Strategy, in general, are just recommendations or a plan. IA strategy provides high-level recommendations regarding information architecture administration. Now I know that administration is the last bit in the process, as I explained, but in the end, how the information is going to be managed, how it will be administered, how the new information will be added to it, how the new information will be carried out, and what happens if scalability issues come in, a new information needs to be added to the site. Technology integration, they might not have the tools available on their disposal, so have to think about what are the tools we are going to use in the end, how the information will be stored, and how it will be populated. Top-down or bottom-up emphasis, organization and leveling system. Now, this system can be mentioned here. Top-down approach is you don't have any category, which is basically like open card sorting. And go on, create the categories, create the subcategories. Whereas document type definition is you have a document and you have to decide that where to put it, which is a closed card sort. Putting it in the strategy perspective, you have to think about where you are going to use it. Organizations which own the domain, like uv.ac.uk, we all know that it is owned by the marketing team. No other department can do the interfere. And if an IA or if an information architect thinks that, okay, I need to make some changes there, the bottom-up approach is the way to go. Pulling up a document, pulling up a type of content, and then thinking about where to fit it, because you cannot change the whole structure. It is already owned, sealed, blocked, and you don't want to mess with the politics which goes internally. Metadata field definitions, you've got to know that what sort of data, how you can categorize it. This thing we discussed with Paul the other day about the UVSU website for policies, and we came up with a nice structure. I haven't yet got a chance to implement it, but going to do it shortly. And navigation system design, global navigation, local, complementary, supplementary, breadcrumbs, etc. How is going to be implemented and how benefit it could be for thinking, articulating, communicating, and testing. That's how you make any strategy. Thinking, converting research data into creative ideas. As soon as you get the data, you start thinking about it, how better it will be implemented. Articulating is when the data that you've collected starts coming into the proofs. that this is what the deliverables are about. That finally, the proof of all the research that you presented, diagrams, metaphors, stories, scenarios, blueprints, wireframes. This is the basis of your whole strategy report that you submit in the end. Communicating, because you have the data, you've got to present it, note down the reactions, do the brainstorming, do a general bit of testing, and ask them that how it is coming out. So card sorts, closed ones, open card sorts, prototypes, and then test them again and again according to your strategy, and see that where your ideas, your thinking, and articulating it on and on that, if it is going right or wrong. Thinking local is another key, but now in articulating phase, where we have all the deliverables are coming from, we need to think again about the metaphor exploration, which is organization metaphors. How an organization is organized. I mean, in a way, if you think about new car showroom will be different from a used car showroom, and that's how an organization is arranged. And metaphorically, you can always make a clear picture that the two things are different. Functional, going to a library asking for a catalog, and going to a music shop and just checking the labels and going. So there are clear metaphors available. Visual metaphors, exit, toilets are always provided. Home, log out, log in. Scenarios, investigative and serendipity. There are two modes. You either go onto a website to perform a specific task, which is buying a product, which is an investigative mode where you want to find out what is right, what is wrong. Serendipity, browsing, surfing the internet, checking on the web pages, just doing, what is it called, just wasting your time. Case studies and stories, tailored for audience vocabulary, the way they understand. Centralizing the core issue by the diagrams like mind maps and the mood boards. Blueprints and wireframes, obviously, where you have defined relationship between content and all the components which are involved. And basically, that's where you transform and create and present the whole architecture, is where you go on to do blueprint and wireframes. IA strategy level deliverables, IA strategy report, which is a detailed strategy report which has the direction and scope. It has executive summary, audience mission and vision for the website, architectural strategies, approach, and lessons learned during the research phase. It covers that. Content management, it defines who is going to do it, what kind of resources will be required, how the information will be organized on the web pages. Metadata and thesaurus. Thesaurus are the keywords which will be counted as, yes, these are the words which will we are going to support in the language of users. Strategy presentation and project plan for design. Themes, deliverables, dates, and that's when I thank you all. Here is a list of my references, and any questions I would love to hear them. Thank you.
Yes, Dushyant.
Any questions for that? Okay, well I'll go. Did you have any particularly good examples of being able to sell IA to an organisation, and what difference that made to the organisation?
There's one example cited in the book of that I was reading, where they had a sub-product which they were trying to integrate between the big company and the smaller company. I mean, in the one company, they're just trying to make sure that they were adding a big navigation for the main company, and they said that there should be microsite inside the main website, and it should be like there is a home button for microsite and home button for the main navigation coming one below the other. So that was quite confusing ongoing, and that's just when an information architect suggested that, okay, why can't we just have two levels of IA, and why can't we just make them just separate, just two websites altogether working on their own, because their product range is different, the branding is different, the color, theme and styling is, everything is different. When you are putting them together, you are actually losing business on one front. And all of a sudden, the idea clicked with the organization, because the spoken words were regarding to business, that how two brands can be run parallelly. Nobody has to know by the market that they are not related or they are related to each other. And all of a sudden they changed into two different websites. The project almost doubled, and two URLs, two different companies, a parent company and a child company, they run with the two different .com domains.